Welcome to the Brick Moda Cloud podcast, where we share scaling stories of F&B and retail. Today, I have Sebastian from multiple concepts, including Mama Diam, Synthesis, and Losang, to be on the show to share with us his story of successes, failures, and everything else. Sebastian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jensen. Right. Hi, guys. My name is Sebastian, and I'm a very, very young entrepreneur. Currently, I'm actually running Mama Diam, Losang, which is a cafe by day, bar by night, and then Synthesis, Shina Jiuwen, which is a wellness-themed restaurant and bar at Suntec City.
That's awesome, man. And you mentioned you're a very young entrepreneur. Can you reveal your age or not, actually?
Can, of course. So I'm born in 1991. I'm 33 this year. So why I'm saying that I'm a young entrepreneur is because prior to COVID, which is in 2021, I was actually working for an ex-boss. I was in the events industry, night events industry. And then when COVID hit, I lost my job. So when I lost my job, I actually was quite clueless because back then we didn't know when the pandemic would end, right? So I was just bumping around, figuring out what I really want. And then I thought, why not use a bit of my savings to start my own business?
That's awesome.
But what business in particular, right? Back then, there were a lot of there wasn't much options, honestly.
Right.
And I'm not very highly educated. So I know that I've always liked to cook. So I cook for a passion.
Right.
I'm not a chef. So my food are not horrible, but they don't taste exactly that great as well, right? So we know that F&B is an industry where it's not difficult to enter, right? If you bake well, you can open a cafe. If you can cook well, you can open a hawker center store, right? It's not difficult. So back then, my dream was to open my own space. So the chance came upon when my friend, Jeffrey owns a pub along New Road.
Okay.
So back then, during after circuit breaker, non-essential businesses were not allowed to operate.
Right.
So bistros, bars especially, they cannot operate if you don't sell food. So that was when he proposed to me, hey, Sebastian, you want to come over? Let me offer you a bit of equity in exchange for you to be my business partner. But back then, the space didn't have a kitchen. So I came up with a bit of savings, maybe around 60%, around close to 40,000 to renovate the office into a kitchen with exhaust, everything.
Wow.
So it was, to me back then, it was a lot of money.
Right.
But it was an opportunity. Opportunity for me to break free from the corporate life,
right? To
do something on my own, right? And then, of course, nothing was well thought of. There was no business strategy. There was no planning. Just breakfast.
Right.
So that's why we started off with a concept. The place is called a sticky situation.
Okay.
The name itself, a sticky situation, depicts the situation. Right.
COVID.
And on top of that, we also sell skewers on sticks.
Okay.
So we lasted for a while till heightened alerts. And then we couldn't survive heightened alerts because it was 2 months of lockdown, and then our food don't really travel well.
Right.
When I say don't travel well, it means that it doesn't taste good when you
tap out, right? When you get grab and like 30 minutes later, it needs to be hot on the spot, right?
Yes. So it's really more of a dining thing with drinks and all.
Right.
So eventually the business fell, and then I was then back to clueless again. Right. So yeah, I mean, I could have went to get a Grab license. I could have
get another job, another corporate job,
job, right? But I think that a part of me still didn't want to give up. And that part of me made me plan for the current first business that I have, which is Mama Diam. So Mama Diam is actually a very localized, hidden, speakeasy bar and restaurant located at 30 Prinsep Street. Right. So Mama Diam is a hidden bar. And back then, I was just thinking, all the hidden bars in Singapore or all the hidden bars around the world, they all have an element of surprise to the experience.
Right.
And that kind of experience is something that is very unique. But there hasn't been a bar that is able to showcase Singapore local culture.
So one of the most interesting thing as a visitor to Mama Diam, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you all still do it, but when I was there a few times, I always get the Singapore flag eraser, right?
Eraser,
Sometimes I need to choose the country, then I can play the eraser game. And the bubble blowing,
the plastic bubble
thing, right?
Yeah.
Do you still do that?
We still do that.
Awesome,
so that is like a giveaway, a souvenir that we give to every patrons when they leave.
Right.
Something that they will remember us. and then and then also something for us to highlight a very local nostalgic game that we used to play when we were young.
Right. So if it's not too sensitive, right? When you built this team to come together as like investors and shareholders, right?
Yep.
What was the capital outlay, right? To do a concept like Mama Diam, to have your speakeasy bar together with like, renovation line, all this is a lot of money, right? If someone say, oh, I want to open a bar somewhere in Singapore, of course, with some takeover renovation and stuff like that, what's the typical, fee that you think, not fee, budget or plan that people need to have to go in? Yeah.
Okay, I think every business has their own budget, right? And every business has their own strategies.
Right.
So back then, Mama Diam, to me, was a business that I could only make it or break it, right? Because I have nothing left really.
All in.
Right? All in. So my strategy was to make do with what I have. So when I say make do with what I have, right, it really means that I save every single penny that I can save. Go in with the lowest capital, break even in the fastest possible time, start to earn money after that. So then I started working backwards. So I started coming out with an Excel sheet first, Excel sheet on my manpower. So if I need to hire a manager, I need to hire... No, there was no manager at first because I was the manager.
You were the manager, right?
Yeah. So a supervisor, 2 floor staff, 2 bartenders, right? There was no HR, no accounts, nothing.
No back office,
nothing,
it's just one squad,
Yeah, so there's just 7 of us. So how much does it cost per month? So that amount up to 22,000. Right. So I pay myself a minimal salary just to keep my life going, right? And then, so usually a business need to have a bit of cash flow, right? So we set aside 2 to 3 months of this fixed cost for manpower. And then we add in our budget for equipments. So like typically we need like 6 fridges, 6 chillers, freezers. We need some cooking appliances.
Right.
But cooking appliances, I also reused
Mr. Loon's.
Mr. Loon's one. Mr. Loon's one.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean, not the best condition.
Sure, it works.
It works.
Most of it works. Yes.
Aircon, we also use back 2 of the units. We only bring in 2 units. Factor in the security deposit.
Right.
My rental is around 20,000. So 3 months of rental deposit is around 60,000. Plus the first month rental is 80,000. And then with a renovation budget of, let's say, 120,000.
You can do it 120.
Yeah, we really.
Because if you look at Mama Diam, right, the renovation is actually really solid. But you all revamped it already, is it not? Like,
we revamped it after 2 years.
I see.
But before that, it was the shop front, everything was the same.
I see.
Was the same. Yeah. We also included a bit of additional expenses for elements that will make the place special. Like for example, we got an artist Jackson to draw a mural drawing. Yeah. And then we got a events company to do up the table for us, the blue table, the blue marble table at the void deck. We did a replica, yeah. So we did that. And then furnitures were cheap. Like we really sourced for secondhand cheap ones.
Or Taobao, whatever.
Back then no Taobao, of course, no China's not open. Right. True. We really find those secondhand cheap ones. And then we designed the menu. Even the menu back then was QR code. Right. No printed menu.
No printer, yeah.
So our start cost was around 280,000.
Yeah. That's
280,000, yeah.
Right.
So thankfully, when Mama Diam opened, COVID was recovering.
Right.
Singaporeans were coming out. Back then, I think every F&B were thriving.
Right.
Thriving like mad.
Right.
So we managed to break even in 7 months.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So now you have Synthesis as well as Losang, right? How do you determine the brand positioning, the concepts and all? Because they are actually very different. And when some people think about expansion when they have a successful business, right?
Yep.
They'll be like, I want to have the same concept or like quick service restaurant style, right? Like 10 of that style in Singapore, but yours is totally different. And I think you have more in your pocket coming out, right? So how do you think about strategy? How do you think about positioning? How do you think about like your different brands?
Okay, I think for a very young business, right, it's good to not think too much. I think just do it.
Just do it, okay?
Yeah, just do it first. Find out what you really, really like. Find out who is your target audience first. And then from there, determine your strategy. So it has been 3 to 4 years already, right? And right now, I'm in my stage of refreshing or rebranding. So this is the year where we come in with a lot on KPI assessments. We come in a lot on adopting technology. We come in with inputting a lot of policies, SOPs and things like that. I'm not saying that all these are not relevant from the start, but it's just that at the start, when you think too much, right, you don't get things going because you're afraid to fail. And talking about Synthesis, talking about Mama Diam and Lo Shang, indeed, all three of them, they are very unique.
Right.
And to be honest, this brand positioning only came about recently when business starts to drop. They start to panic. You know, what can I do to be better?
Right.
Right. And eventually the answer that I got, right, is to ask yourself, why should consumer come to this place? Why should I go to Mama Diam instead of another speakeasy bar? Why should I go to Synthesis instead of another restaurant in Suntec City? So what sets us apart? And then using that unique selling point or unique proposition, right, you target the relevant audience. So for example, Mama Diam is very unique because it has a lot of local culture. It speaks nostalgia. So our target audience at Mama Diam is actually tourists and people who are looking for a space to host their friends. So Princess Street is located very near a lot of hotels.
Right.
So then this target audience will allow us to make better strategies in terms of marketing, to work with local hotels, to work with Singapore Tourism Board,
right,
to work with a lot of Singapore Tour Guides Association, things like that. So it's more defined. So if you ask me whether I want Singaporeans to come, of course I want, right? But we have to target somebody somewhere first. If not, you're targeting nobody.
Right.
And then for Synthesis, Synthesis used to start off as a very wow Instagrammable place. That's it.
So people go there, take an Instagram, and then would they come back? This question.
Yeah, they won't come back.
They won't come back because they take once already.
Yeah,
there.
It's like Malayan.
Right.
It's like Malayan.
Take a photo and go.
Yeah.
Right.
So during the second year, then we decided that this shouldn't be the right way. Right. So we started making the whole place fit into the initial thought that we have, which is wellness. Wellness supported by traditional Chinese medicine.
Right.
So the shop front is a TCM hall.
Right.
And then you go inside, you see a very wow tunnel. Enter, you see a very nice bar. And then you sit down, you see a menu that is inspired by herbal medicine, right? So currently this theme is the 5 elements. So you got a wood, fire, water, earth, themed food and cocktails as well. So then the target audience at Synthesis would be slightly different. We are targeting people who are more mindful about what they eat. People who are starting to be a bit more health conscious.
Health conscious, yeah.
And of course, with that unique selling point, because in Singapore, there's no other restaurant that serves cocktails that
a bar that's centric towards a wellness, right? Because usually bars, people go there and like drink, right? And then just get high or whatever, right? Or taste or like experiences. But I think you guys did a really, really good job in bringing the herbal elements, especially the TCM elements, right? It looks like a TCM shop, right?
Yeah. So it's very interesting because a lot of companies now, right, when they do events, when they want to have retreats, D&D for them, right? They want to find places that are interesting, right? So this Synthesis is a very perfect spot for companies to come and hold their events, their luncheons, things like that. Right. Yeah. And moreover, Synthesis is in Suntec, accessible.
Right. Working crowd is easy for them.
Easy to come down. Yeah.
How about Lo Shang?
Okay, so Lo Shang was is the latest baby to the family. Right. So Lo Shang is located just upstairs Mama Diam. Right. It's called Lo Shang, which means upstairs, right? Upstairs. So when I was thinking of what to do, I was really quite lost because having an extension to Mama Diam doesn't make sense. Serve the food, bring the food upstairs, drinks you carry upstairs, very dangerous also for the staff. So then I happened to chance upon 2 very talented young boys. So the first guy is Hex. Hex is a bartender, now my current bar manager. So he used to work with the Jigger Group. Jigger Pony Group. And then he came over. He's very talented, a lot of ideas, very passionate. So he was the first young man that inspired me. The second young man is Jeron. Jeron is a barista. Used to work at all those very hippie cafe and all. Yeah, very knowledgeable about his coffee, what beans, he can tell you everything. Yeah, drip coffee, what temperature, everything. Yeah. Right. So he's another talented young man. So with these 2 young men, we decided to go with this cafe by day, bar by night concept. As for the space itself, why HDB, right? Because a lot of cafes out there, they are very nice, very artsy-fartsy, they are very minimalist, very cozy. So I wanted to continue the story of a museum. So Mama Diam itself is a soon
It's an iconic place, lah, right?
Yeah, soon
Basically,
disappearing.
yeah,
Soon
like
disappearing
Mama Shop, that kind of
icon.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we wanted to continue the experience of, usually back in the days where I was staying in Hougang.
Right.
After school, I would go to Mama Shop.
Right.
I'll buy curry puff.
Right.
I'll buy popsicle, ice cream,
Right.
those cheap one, the Solero ice cream, right?
And go
After
up.
I eat, I'll go back home. I stay at
Right.
level 2.
Easy, yeah. That's
Yeah.
no some only one.
Yeah. So I wanted the whole space to feel like my childhood.
And this is something that the tourists that they come in, they will experience, right?
Yes.
In your lens, right? As
Yes.
a experiential taste food here, the whole thing, right?
Yeah,
So I think that's a very, very good idea.
Yeah. So today, you ask me what's so special about Mama Diam and Shang. It's the experience, lor.
Mm.
The food is normal, to be honest.
Right.
The drinks are not normal, lor.
Right.
But it's the experience. It's the experience that a tourist must visit when you come to Singapore.
Right.
I think that the experience is something that I want to sell more than the taste or the value of the
Right.
food. Yeah.
So I think I just want to shout out a little bit to the perspective that your ideal customer profile is very important. Even for us at Staff Any, when we focus about what we build, right? Our software for HR and operations, right, is mainly focused for F&B and retail. That's why we don't go into like the Fortune 500 and all.
Yeah.
Just like what you shared, Mama Diam and like Lo Shang, you guys can tackle maybe the people that are abroad in the hotels nearby to come in to have that nostalgic experience of like Singapore, of how Singapore would be, and also Synthesis for having that whole herbal wellness TCM kind of vibe. So I think that's like a really important like segment that you managed to drive at.
Yeah.
So I think you mentioned just now also some challenges, right? Like when you first started, and then like concepts need refreshing, as well as COVID and all. What was your biggest challenge actually in this whole entire F&B journey?
Okay, I would say at different part of the journey, there were different challenges.
Right.
As we are growing, as the team gets bigger, I think the challenge that we face usually revolves around people. Right? People. So management is one. HR is one, because I don't have a HR.
How many staff do you have actually right now?
Currently, if combined, I have 55.
And no HR.
No HR.
That's quite crazy.
No HR. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm actually currently employing one. So if anyone looking for one, you can look for me. Yeah. Okay. But anyways, that was when I started to look out for Staff Any. Yeah. Because back then everything was really more about Excel. So your timesheet, clock in, clock out. So clock in quite simple lah.
Right.
Boss can help.
Yeah,
We can
press,
then- We export the data. We do the Excel. Manually count our OT hours. We manually calculate whether this person worked 25, 26 days.
It's too much.
Yeah, things like that, right?
Right.
Whether things like MC, how many days left to claim, things like that. So it became very. I wouldn't say it's not feasible, but it became not efficient.
Tedious. Yeah.
Tedious. And then when it comes, so because our payroll is on the 5th every month. So every month on the 31st, my restaurant manager will prepare the data for me.
Count everything.
Everything. They only prepare the
timesheet lah.
The
Basically,
timesheet,
this is the total hours lah.
yeah.
Right?
So I will spend first, second, third doing the payroll.
Right.
And then when I do the payroll, human mistakes.
We should have, yeah.
Then we have mistakes. The staff also must wait for the payslip to come. Because
Right.
the payslip is manual.
Manual, right.
Yeah. You screenshot, you send, or you say PDF, export PDF to them. So it becomes very inefficient. And then that was when I decided to look into HR software.
Right.
To be honest, Staff Any is not the first one that I found.
Yeah, there's a lot of HR software everywhere.
I used a lot before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I eventually settled for Staff Any.
Right.
The HR part first. And then recently I got into the payroll.
Thank you for your
which is quite
support.
helpful, yeah.
Yeah, we'll continue doing our best to support for that lah. But I think apart from the people side of thing where you use tools like Staff Any to help with it, right? Then you just now mentioned also management, right? So like what's the issue on management that you're dealing with and you're trying to like improve in your business?
Okay, I think that the part about management is about understanding the needs. So I came across this recently and I think it's worth sharing. Most of the time, we as employers, when we hire people, right, we always look at what we need from them.
Right.
We need them to be punctual. We need them to deliver the service that we want. We need them to deliver what is expected for them.
Right.
Very little did we think about what they actually need from us.
Right.
We always think that staff come and work, they need money, right? But it's actually not the case.
Not true.
Yeah, not true. Some people, they really come here, they want to learn from the right people, they want to have a career growth, they want to, they have their needs, they have their own special needs, like everyone has needs. So I think being a manager or being a senior management, the first thing that you need to do is to understand the needs of your people. Only then you are able to curate this relationship which actually foster the whole team together. So I'm not going to use big words like team culture
Mm.
and things like that, because I think team culture is something that is a conversion of habit. When you do something for a long, long time, that becomes a culture.
Right.
For example, let's say my family likes to come over to my house to visit my ama every Sunday.
It becomes culture.
It becomes a culture,
Right.
right? So habit is a culture.
Series of
right?
habits together,
Yeah, habit is culture. So I think this habit part, the senior management plays a very important role, which is why this year we started to hire more senior management people, the right people. And there were a lot of people who left the company
Right.
when we restructured. There are like 20 people left. But they left not because they were not capable, but because the environment was not suitable. Right. And we started hiring new people, and we are in the midst of training. And we all know that F&B has always been an industry where there are a lot of turnovers. Right. So I mean, I try not to accept that for real.
Right.
Right. I'm still trying my best to really carve up a good prospect for every individual. Because if the business stopped growing, there will be no career prospects for the people inside.
Yep.
Right.
And they have to look for somewhere else anyway.
Correct. So right now, I think my biggest challenge is actually on how to make everything auto-run by itself. Auto-run by itself.
Right.
Like, for example, I just came from China, 2 weeks. These 2 weeks, I was not very disturbed by any work at all.
That's awesome. That means that you have already taken one step back of the operating theatre, right?
Yes,
You're now more strategic and directive, right?
Yeah. So now currently I'm working on the next venture. But with that being said, of course, for that to happen, you really need to trust
the leadership.
The management. You really need to give them their freedom. You need to give them their space to do what they want.
And the space to grow, of course, most importantly, the opportunity to grow.
So for me, I feel that if they make a mistake, as long as the mistake doesn't kill the company,
it's a teachable moment, right?
Yeah, it's like you ride a bicycle, you must fall down first, right?
Then you grow.
Yeah, then you grow. Then you learn a cycle.
Right.
So I'm trying to build that mindset into myself,
right,
so that whenever they make mistakes, listen to them. They have to be responsible for the mistake, lah.
Right, of course.
And then from there, we improve,
right,
we do better.
Right. So now you're about 50 people, 3 concepts, 3 years in. I mean, at the start, maybe when we start, you mentioned just do it, right? Don't be think so much, right?
Yep.
But now you are 50 people, right?
Yep.
And you mentioned things like attrition rate, right? Retention rate.
Yep.
Are you guys now being more metrical? Like, are you guys like having like KPIs and very much? So what kind of KPIs do you like? If you were to advise our listeners, right?
Okay.
They should start tracking earlier. Like, what do you not track at the start? Then you regret, like, oh shit, actually I should have tracked it at the start, that kind of stuff. And so what should they track, right? And then the second one is, how do you actually run those processes? Do you have like weekly meetings, sync up calls, and like, spreadsheets that people fill in? And how do you do that?
Okay, so I think KPI is a very big word. It can scare people off. And nobody likes to be checked, right? So I think KPI setting, first and foremost, when I bring it across to my staff, when I started to introduce this year, it's actually not a punishment scheme.
It's not,
Yeah. I'm not setting KPI to punish you.
Neither is it to micromanage people, just to be clear to everybody, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's accountability and like alignment.
Correct. And I also set KPI to tell you that if you do well, if you do like 8 upon 10 or 10 upon 10, it's a point system, right? When it's a point system, how will you get rewarded? So passing is 6, right? For me, for my company. So 8, maybe you get a half-month bonus. 1, you get a 1 month, 2 months bonus.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you get rewarded. But if you don't do well, you don't get.
Right.
You don't get.
So you have like all the bending, like, okay, the rule, right? 6 you get something, 8 you get something, then that kind of stuff. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
So I'm trying to bring across to them that KPI is not to 抓你们.
Right.
Yeah, it's not to catch your mistakes and all.
Right.
It's for you to know exactly what you're supposed to do. Because I realized that a lot of staff in the first 2 years, they don't know why they're coming to work.
They're just going through a motion for income, right? Maybe, for example.
Yeah. So they're doing things repeatedly, the same thing, not knowing what exactly they're supposed to focus on.
Right.
So that part made a lot of people went into their own comfort zone. And then when you start implementing new policies, new technologies, they are resilient to it.
Resistant to it.
Resistant to it, yeah. So that part, then I feel for KPI setting, right? If especially F&B, if you are talking about, I'll break it into 2 indicators, hard indicators, which is numbers related,
right?
So sales related, especially, or expenses. So to me, profit is cost minus away your expenses.
Revenue minus expenses.
Revenue minus expenses. Yeah. So to me, that part is you have to set a KPI to it.
Right. So you
Especially
have
for-
both the revenue KPI and the cost
Soft.
side. So you like say, hey, restaurant manager, bar manager, our goal is this, right, for the
Yes.
month. Or do you do it by day or you do it by week?
No, I do it by depends. If the role is very important, right, the length of assessment is shorter, so
Right.
that we can make immediate adjustments for the strategy.
Right.
Right. So my restaurant managers are usually 3 months, but by quarterly basis.
Right.
Whereas my service staff, they are longer, 6 months, 1 year. Yeah.
That's awesome. And for cost side of things, you also manage in terms of like, hey, COGS.
Yep.
Like, is that something that you give them a KPI?
COGS, wastages.
Wastages?
Yeah. Mostly is this too. If it's like marketing, so we will talk about marketing budget,
Right.
things like that.
And marketing budget, you also measure like
ROI.
ROI.
Yep, ROI.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. And this is a monthly meeting or weekly meeting or bi-weekly meeting? How do you do that?
We have a weekly meeting I have a weekly meeting with the heads.
Okay.
The one that reports to me.
Right.
We have they have their own internal meetings.
Right.
We also meet like a town hall for each outlet every month. And then we also have a company like luncheon, we'll close the restaurant for half a day, we go for lunch, things like that.
That's
every
awesome.
month, yeah.
That's awesome. So now you have 3 concepts and you have learned so much. And just now you leak a little bit that you're going to open something new soon, new ventures coming soon.
Yes.
Can you share what's the future plan for yourself and for your businesses?
Okay, nothing is firm up yet. So I'm thinking to start this somewhere end of this year, December or next year, January. So Synthesis is a wellness themed restaurant, right? And in Synthesis, we actually have a range of wellness inspired beverages, right? If I were to put it in layman terms, we're talking about like liang cha.
Liang cha, yes.
Yeah. So I plan to actually modernize herbal tea and turn it into a chain franchise beverage restaurant.
That's super awesome.
Beverage
Concept,
concept,
basically, right?
concept,
Yeah.
right.
That's awesome.
So taking a bit of what I used to experience again back when I was young. So
When
last time I was
younger?
young, my mom, like 捕捉, right? My mom cooked
羅漢果 right.
ginseng,
Chrysanthemum,
chrysanthemum,
right,
barley,
right.
chestnut. All these are very Singaporean.
Right.
Right? But now if you go, you want to drink, right? You can go to Hokkwa, get
Right.
the bottle with the red cap.
Right.
So I want to do it a bit more trendy, a bit more fun, a bit more, something different.
That's super awesome, man.
Yeah.
So we're moving to the last part of our show, which is the quick fire questions.
Quick-fire
so I'll
question,
ask you a few questions and you can only answer with maybe at most 1 sentence or like even a word is fine.
Sure.
All right. So in this industry, we are standing on the shoulders of giant.
Okay.
Who is someone in the industry that you have learned the most from?
I would say Haidilao.
Haidilao.
Yep.
Is there a person there that you learn from or is mainly just the brand?
Just the brand.
If there's one piece of advice that you give someone that's just starting up,
Yeah.
what's the advice that you give them?
I would say just do it.
If you have a son or daughter that wants to take over your business or be in the F&B space, what's your advice for him or her?
Just do it.
So we have 2 just do it already.
Yeah.
If you were to dine in your own restaurant, whether it's at Mama Diam, Lo Sang, or Synthesis, what is that, epic meal that you order each time you're there?
I really, really like the Pao Fan at Synthesis, right? And I really love the cocktails, the local inspired cocktails at Mama Diam and Lo Sang. So I think these 2 would be my highly recommended for anyone who goes there.
That's super. If someone would like to follow your journey and follow like your next opening and stuff like that, how should they best follow you?
I can be contacted at Instagram, Sebastian Ang. If not, you can actually spot me at my outlets anytime. Yeah.
Right. And the last question over here is, are you willing to offer a mentorship session from one of our listeners if they are interested to find you for advice and how to think about F&B?
Yeah, I wouldn't say mentorship. I would say more like a chit-chat session. I'm actually very, very glad to share, my experiences and how I actually start my own business from scratch. But that doesn't constitute to a professional advice.
It's not professional advice, yeah.
Just my take, my pinch of salt, yeah.
Right.
My 2 cents, yeah. So
Right.
I'll be glad anytime.
Right. Any final words that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Maybe I would like to say that F&B is not easy, but it's definitely a very fulfilling journey for someone who loves to cook, someone who loves to speak to people and socialize. So if you're someone who likes to be in the F&B scene, but you have heard a lot of negative news about it, don't hesitate, just do it.
So we have Sebastian joining us from Mama Diam, Synthesis, and Lo Sang. Thank you so much, Sebastian.
Thank you.
Thank you.